have less earning assets, so they couldn't earn 8% next year, and they're gonna be in big trouble, but they can do that to meet demand, practically. But this is just illustrative, okay? So this is what happens if rates increase and you have your sources of funds are shorter maturity than your uses of funds, okay? Give everyone some time to finish scribbling that down. The most interesting thing about this is, though, what happens when rates increase? And it might not be what you expect.
You mean decrease?
I do mean decrease. I am off today. I'm sorry, guys.
You still get the same.
You're not drinking coffee, are you? What is that, vodka? Net income is gonna increase also because it's gonna be more of a profit margin.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, do you have a reason why it wouldn't?
Because then you would spend, it would cost less money to get a mortgage. The interest rate on the mortgage would go down, so when everything.
Okay, but this is there's 13 years left in this mortgage. Why would my actual cost of funds go down? You're right, but why? Why would my, not cost of funds, why would my actual return on funds?
Because it costs less to borrow money.
Not quite. So what's gonna happen in mortgages? Mortgages have options. And as you'll learn about in investments, as you might have learned about in business finance, as I will reiterate in this class, options are basically the right for somebody else
To buy it out.
to do something bad to you when you least want it, when it will hurt you the most.
So you're talking about like a refinance?
I'm talking about a refinance, yep. A refinance is a call option. In public bond markets, they call it call options. In mortgage markets, they call it a refinance, okay? So you guys get caught up with the writing down of options and stuff, I'll go over exactly how this is gonna work. So everything else stays the same, but if rates have gone down, let's say rates have gone down rates are now half what they used to be, okay? So if I make a loan, if I make a new loan, so say all of these people refinance and I'm gonna have to give them all new loans, sure, I'll charge them some refi fees or something, but the rate at which I'm gonna give them all new loans is gonna be 4%.
Still losing because the operating cost is 5%.
Losing more, in fact. So here, 4. The good news is, at least, and they refinance into 15-year products again, let's say, the cost of funds is going to go down a little bit. I don't have to pay people as much if rates have gone down. That means every bank around me can't afford to pay people as much on their deposits, on their CDs. So if those people want another CD from me, I can get away with charging them less. But I can't reduce my CD rate by 4% because it was only 2% to begin with. 2% is what the example started with, okay? So I can't reduce it by 4%. So let's say I reduce it as low as I can possibly go and keep some people, and we'll call it 0.5%. Okay? So what'll happen is my profit on funds, my interest income gets cut in half. My cost of funds, my interest expense, takes a 75% haircut. Right? But I still have the same operating expenses. So turns out I lose
1.5.
yeah, 1.5 million. And this all has to do with the optionality in the loan portfolio. That's because almost all banks have mortgages. Most mortgages are fixed rate. Almost all fixed rate mortgages have the option to refinance. That means the borrower can do something bad to the bank at the time that the bank would least want it done. Say it.
But I mean, out of 100 million, the majority of those people will not refinance.
Yes, you're right. Practically speaking, it won't be 100 million that'll refinance, but that's
Maybe
okay.
10%.
Probably more than 10%. You'd be surprised.
I mean, if it drops dramatically by
yeah.
half, yeah, but if it drops by a percentage point, you're not gonna have $100 million
No,
worth.
you're certainly not.
Run to the bank, I'm gonna give you my 1%.
And so this
Because
is
the cost of transactions will be putting this probably on.
it might offset. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's going to take a dramatic reduction. But if you'll remember, so that was the argument we always got from bankers. But if you'll remember what happened in the financial crisis is we had probably a 300 percentage points or 300 basis point decrease within a year of, what's that? Yeah, it was dramatic. And so this is tail risk, this is like really, really low probability events, but what we tried to do as regulators is encourage them to be able to withstand such kind of events. And when we failed to encourage them, we mandated them.
And then if the mortgage rates would drop like that, that means there's an economic effect also going on.
Yeah.
Pushing that down, and then you're gonna start defaulting on them loans also.
Right.
Losing money up.
And so what it's difficult for me to impart on you guys in 50-minute class or
Yeah.
70-minute class that I already ran over on, 80-minute class, is how all these things are interconnected. And if you do get a job in banking, and if you do apply for the FDIC job, which I really encourage you, it's a really cool gig, you will see how much more complex this gets. But the source of the root of the problem is because the liabilities and the assets are mismatched on their maturity structure. And so the solution to this problem is to match assets and liabilities on their maturity structure. This is important. This is something that banks have to do so that when these guys, or I mean, what banks also do is don't hold long-term mortgages. They sell them off to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
Then they default and they're good.
Yeah, and then banks have nothing.
Okay, but what was the last thing you said? Make sure we remember what?
Make sure you remember that one way to mitigate this problem, for instance, if it were two-year mortgages that they're given instead, then in the downward rates and in the upward rate scenario, the first one we talked about, this wouldn't matter because the liabilities would reprice, and they would reprice at a higher amount, so the bank would have to pay more to borrow money from depositors, but their assets would also reprice. So at least the bank has insulated themselves from the risk of rates increasing. How banks insulate themselves from optionality in the portfolio, which is by having a flexible operating structure, being able to reduce that, but also packaging up mortgages and selling them. Try to get those assets with options off the books. Because from a bank's perspective, options in their loan portfolio have risk. Thank you guys for the extra time. I promise I will let you guys
So
go.
they would, so what you're saying is that they would sell them off and just collect whatever they could off of them?
Yeah, so what they do, and that's a source of fee income. That's a huge source of fee income. So that was the only way banks were able to stay in business is by getting all these mortgages, making all these mortgages, selling them off, and servicing the mortgages. That means when the consumer sends a payment for their mortgage, they won't be sending it to Fannie Mae. They won't be sending it to the ultimate investor who bought the mortgage-backed security. They'll still be sending it to the bank that they got their mortgage from. And the bank
But they
collects
won't
that payment.
physically own the loan.
They don't own that loan alone. They'll collect the payment, they'll take 1% off the payment, and they'll give the rest to Fannie Mae.
And Fannie Mae will agree with that?
Yep.
Because I guess it's kind of like a rental property, right? Like
Yeah.
you have 10 rental properties, you want to go around maintenance and then you
Exactly.
pay a management company to.
That's exactly it. It's managing their sort of
Got it.
operations.